Greetings friends and welcome back to Recon by Fire. The World Eaters are playing Vessels of Wrath and are bringing Angron, 10 Jackals, 3 8-bound, 2 squads of 3 Exalted 8-bound, 1 squad of 6 Exalted 8-bound, 2 Forge Fiends, and a Lord of Skulls. The Orks are running Dread Mob, and because it's Grotmas, they are led by the Red Gobbo and the Red Gobbo Surprise. They are bringing a Big Mech, leading a 10-man squad of Ludas, 2 mechs, Zodgrod Wortsnagga leading a squad of Gretchin, a lone squad of Gretchin, 2 Trukks, a Deff Dread, a Gorkanaut, 2 squads of 5 Storm Boys, and a Stompa.
The mission today is the Red Gobbo is trying to do an explosive surprise. The Grots are trying to move the Snowman, aka explosive Snowman, over into the opponent's deployment zone with festive demolitions. At the end of each battle round, the attacker will get 2 victory points for each objective marker within 6 inches in the opponent's deployment zone, or 1 point if they're within 12 of wholly within your deployment zone. Whereas the World Eaters, aka the Defenders, do not like that, and anytime one of the Snowmen or objective markers are destroyed, they will gain 1 primary point at the end of each battle round.
Pre-game actions, the Red Gobbo and the Trukk will scout forward 6 inches. Zodgrod and company will scout 9 inches to get on the center point. The 8-bound will scout forward and behind cover. Blessings of Corn are advance in charge and +2 movement. Top of round 1 and the Orks are going first. They draw Containment and Establish Locus as their secondaries for the turn. Start of the movement phase, and the Deff Dread is going to advance 12 inches forward, taking the Snowman with it. Unfortunately, it moved a little too fast and the Snowman explodes, dealing 2 mortal wounds to the Deff Dread. Red Gobbo moves forward alone. Second Red Gobbo pops out of the Trukk, and the Trukk will whip around the corner. Zodgrod and company will move forward, taking the Snowman with them. And unfortunately, this one explodes as well. Deff Dread takes 4 mortals. Gretchin suffer 1 mortal wound. After seeing the last 2 snowmen explode, the Trukk is going to literally roll the dice. It manages to make the move unscathed. Gorkanaut inches forward behind the wall. Stompa moves forward to see down the middle. Its Snowman remains intact. At the end of the movement phase, Red Gobbo will make another Snowman. Mechs will pop out of both the Gorkanaut and the Stompa. Going into shooting, and the Gorkanaut will fire into the regular 8-bound. It scores lethal hits on pushing the button. And down goes an 8-bound. That's going to do it for the Orks turn 1. They'll score 6 points for Containment and 2 points for Established Locus. Bottom of round 1, and the World Eaters will draw Storm Hostile Objective and Mark for Death. Mark for Death targets are the Gorkanaut, the Stompa, and the mech behind the Stompa. Start of the movement phase, and the 8-bound are going to advance, moving in on the Snowman. Exalted 8-bound are making a move towards the Trukk. Exalted 8-bound will move towards the Red Gobbo and the Deff Dread. Orks will spend a command point on Conniving Runt for the Red Gobbo to bravely run away. Forge Fiend will move forward out of hiding. Lord of Skulls will attempt to get line of sight. Angron repositions to give the Lord of Skulls and the Forge Fiend re-roll the hits. Jackals are going to reposition to screen out any potential charges. Start of the shooting phase, and the Lord of Skulls fires everything into the Trukk. The Trukk goes down, and they only lose a single Gretchin. Forge Fiend opens up on the Gretchin that got out, picking up all but 2 of them. Forge Fiend into the Deff Dread. It manages to take it down, but it does not explode. Moving on to charges, and the regular 8-bound make it into the Gretchin. Exalted 8-bound make it into Zodgrod and company. Start of the fight phase, and the regular 8-bound into the Gretchin manage to finish off the squad. World Leaders spend a command point to re-roll their blessings and score sustained hits for the rest of the round. Exalted swing into Zodgrod and company, picking up all but 3 Gretchin. Zodgrod will fight back, picking up an Exalted and leaving another at 2 wounds remaining. That will end the turn for the World Eaters. They'll score 4 points for storming a hostile objective and discarding Mark for Death for a command point. At the end of the turn, the Red Gobbo will cause the Snowman to explode, dealing 5 mortals to the regular 8-bound. 1 will bite the bullet, the other stays alive at just 2 wounds remaining. This will score the World Eaters an additional 3 points for 3 Snowmen exploding. Top of round 2 for the Orks, and they will draw engage on all fronts and extend battle lines as their secondaries for the turn. There are no snowmen in the World Leader's deployment zone, so they will score 0 on primary. Orks will call the Wog. Blessings for the World Leaders are Feel No Pain and Lethal Hits. Start of the movement phase, Orks will spend a command point on Super Fueled Boiler on the Stompa, and it will advance a whopping 13 inches. The Trukk will advance 17 inches, taking the Snowman with it. The Snowman does explode and will start the mayhem off by dealing 4 mortals to the Forge Fiend. The Trukk will take 4 mortals. The 8-bound take a single mortal. Zodgrod will lose another Gretchin. And finally, 2 Jackals bite the bullet. The mech will run as fast as he can to keep up with the Stompa. Red Gobbo makes a normal move forward, taking the Snowman with it. Red Gobbo Surprise makes a move towards the center of the board. Gorkanaut plows through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man, bringing the Snowman with him. It unfortunately couldn't handle it and does explode. Oh boy. Forge Fiend suffers 3 mortal wounds. Exalted 8-bound suffers 6 mortals, taking 2 of them down. And finally gets its revenge, scoring 5 wounds on the Gorkanaut. Now that the coast is clear, the mech will catch up to the Gorkanaut. Red Gobbo will decide it's a good idea to make another Snowman, and the mech will heal the Gorkanaut back up to 16 wounds. 1 squad of Storm Boys comes in behind enemy lines, and the second squad will take the opposite corner. Ludas will disembark from the Gorkanaut. World Leaders will spend a command point to rapid ingress the Exalted 8-bound where the Gorkanaut just left. Start of the shooting phase, and the Red Gobbo Surprise will fire its las pistol into the lone 8-bound and bring it down to just 1 wound remaining. Mech will fire into the lone 8-bound and fails to score a wound. Zodgrod and Gretchin into the Exalted 8-bound, failing to score a wound. The Stompa fires everything into the Forge Fiend. They push the button, scoring sustained hits, and it manages to be enough to take it down. It does not explode. The Ludas came ready for a fight and absolutely unload on the Lord of Skulls, leaving it at just 12 wounds remaining. The Gorkanaut is up next and pushes the button, scoring critical wounds. It will split fire, sending its smaller weapons into the Exalted 8-bound, scoring a single wound. The rest of the weapon systems go into the Lord of Skulls, knocking off an additional 2 wounds. The mech fires into the lone Exalted, bringing him down to just 1 wound remaining. The weapon does explode in his face though, bringing him down to 1 as well. Both squads of Storm Boys take shots at Angron but fail to score a wound. On to the charge phase, and the Orks have to burn their final command point on a reroll, but the Stompa makes it into the Forge Fiend. Storm Boys make their charge into the Lord of Skulls with a 9. Storm Boys appear to be hopped up on Mountain Dew, and they will make their charge into Angron as well. Storm Boys into Angron give it all they got and bring him down to 14 wounds remaining. Storm Boys clobber the Lord of Skulls, bring him down to just 6 wounds remaining. The Gorkanaut will absolutely pulverize the Exalted 8-bound, and the Stompa will leave a crater where the Forge Fiend used to stand. Time for ongoing combat, and the Exalted 8-bound swing into the Gretchin and Zodgrod, managing to only take down a single Gretchin. Zodgrod and the Gretchin will fight back, absolutely wiping the set of Exalted 8-bound. Lord of Skulls will sweep and make short work of the Storm Boy squad, and Angron picks up the other squad. That's going to end the turn for the Orks, scoring 2 points for controlling 3 table quarters and 5 points for extend battle lines. Bottom of turn 2 for the World Leaders, and they will draw engage on all fronts and extend battle lines as their secondaries. Start of the movement phase, and the regular 8-bound is going to move towards the Gorkanaut, getting ready to spread its sweet reroll wound aura. The large Exalted squad is up next and will move towards the Ludas. Jaeger versus Jaeger as the Lord of Skulls heads towards the Stompa. Jackals are going to take their chances going into Zodgrod's unit. Angron moves towards the Stompa to try to share his aura with as many units as possible. The Lord of Skulls is bracketed, but will get the reroll hits aura from Angron. He'll fire the Skull Hurler into the Gorkanaut, bringing it down to just 7 wounds remaining, and the Gore Storm Cannon into the Ludas, taking down 3 of them. It's charge o'clock, and the Lord of Skulls makes it into the Stompa. Angron gets just enough movement to make it over the terrain and close enough to the Exalted. The lone 8-bound makes his charge into the Gorkanaut, getting in between the Exalted and Angron. Exalted will make their charge into the Gorkanaut. Exalted 8-bound are up first, splitting their attacks, sending one with a sweep into the mech. it manages to scrape off the last wound. The other 5 Exalted will strike into the Gorkanaut, leaving it at just a single wound remaining. This crackback is going to hurt. Thanks to the mech dying, the World Leaders are going to spend a command point to roll a third blessing and score sustained hits. The Lone A-bound into the Gorkanaut and scrapes off the last wound. The Lord of Skulls will strike into the Stompa with sustained hits. The Orks will command reroll a save and it falls down to 22 wounds remaining. Angron is up next and will strike into the Stompa and absolutely tears it to pieces. In true Grotmas fashion though, it does explode with a whopping 2d6 deadly demise.
Yeah, I need the stomp. Oh wait, does he explode? That's
oh,
kinda...
true, yeah.
He does!
It starts off by scoring 7 mortals on the Lord of Skulls, exacting its revenge. Angron will take 9 mortals, shrugging off 2 with Feel No Pains. The Lone A-bound will get absolutely vaporized. Exalted A-bound take 12 mortals, killing 2 and leaving another wounded. The Ludas unfortunately take 10 mortal wounds, picking up the entire squad, leaving just the mech standing. Some say the Stompa's nuclear core reactor exploded 3 times its size that day. That's going to end the turn for the World Leaders, and the Red Gobbo will explode the nearby Snowman, dealing a single mortal to Angron. 4 Jackals take a snowball to the face. Zodgrod is left alone as the remaining Gretchin go down, and the Trukk manages to get away with only a few scratches. World Leaders are going to score 5 points for extend battle lines and discard engage on all fronts because everything exploded it did. They will score 3 points for exploding 3 snowmen. Top of round 3, and the Orks will draw a Sabotage and Assassination as their secondaries for the turn. They'll score 0 on primary as, what do you know, not a single snowman made it to the World Leaders deployment zone unscathed. Blessings for the round are Advance in Charge and Feel No Pain. Start of the movement phase, and the Red Gobbo will bravely advance the opposite direction. Red Gobbo Surprise will move up 6, taking the Snowman with him. Orks have to spend a command point on a reroll to avoid it exploding.
Yep, Jesus, stop blowing yourselves up!
Truck's gonna make its normal move to get in the building and perform the sabotage action. The mech will move in on Angron, hoping to score assassinate. The big mech will take up a flanking position on Angron, and Zodgrod will go after the remaining Jackals. Finally, Red Gobbo makes an additional Snowman. Both mechs will fire into Angron utilizing the anti-fly keyword, but unfortunately Angron does manage to make all his saves, failing to suffer a single wound. Going straight into charges, the mech will fail its charge, not having access to a reroll, but the large mech does make it in. Zodgrod successfully makes their charge. World Leaders are going to heroic with the Exalted 8-bound, but roll a low charge and only make 2 in. Big Mech will push the button for sustained hits and swings into Angron, almost scoring the kill, but a CP reroll on the invul means Angron survives at 4 wounds remaining. Zodgrod into the Jackals and scoops up 3 of them. Angron will eviscerate the Big Mech on the crackback, and the lone Jackal fails to take down Zodgrod. Our players decide to call it here, considering that Angron and the remaining Exalted will scoop up what's left of the Grot army. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this holiday special. We will be back next week with our regular scheduled programming. But if you made it this far in the video, please do consider sharing it with a friend and dropping us a sub, as we would really appreciate it. Until next time, as always, friends, happy gaming.